Chelsea have won the FA Cup. Victory at Wembley secured an invincible domestic treble for the Blues in Sonia Bompastor's first season at the helm. In this video, we break down how Chelsea set up in this game and look at why Man United could do nothing to stop them. This is our analysis of Chelsea 3, Man United 0. Alright, let's talk about it then. Chelsea win the FA Cup 3-0, and with it win a domestic treble. An incredible game at Wembley Stadium, Harry. What was the experience like?
Yeah, it was brilliant. It was a final that I think we knew would be competitive, and it was competitive. I do think the scoreline doesn't favour Chelsea, but it makes it look less competitive. People will look at it and think it wasn't a competitive game, but it was a competitive game. But it was just that second half from Chelsea, and I think it was from Chelsea and from Bompastor's point of view, it was the perfect final. Take your time, be patient, build yourself into the game, and then as the final goes on, you get better and better and better. And United just couldn't keep up. As Chelsea improved, United just couldn't handle it. And Chelsea were absolutely brilliant. It was exactly what you want when you rock up at a final to play the way that Chelsea did. It was superb, and credit to them. All 3 domestic trophies going their way. It's been a brilliant season. Unbeaten domestic treble is a hell of an achievement. And I think that this the way they played on Sunday, the way they played in that final was a brilliant way to kind of finish the season.
Yeah, I think this is probably Chelsea's most controlling performance of the season. I think that's been an element of Bompastor's system that she's been trying to get into the game, bring in more control, bring in more stability. It's not really happened. But last 2 games, playing this 3-4-3, as much I think it stifles us going forwards, it has offered a lot more control, a lot more security. We never looked like conceding in this game. United had 1 shot on target all game, 2 shots total. Frankly, that's not enough in an FA Cup final. And we'll get to United's lack of efforts or lack thereof in a bit. But Chelsea, phenomenal. 7 shots in this game, 6 on target. When they had chances, they took them. And that was the most important thing in this game. Chelsea played really well in attacking areas. Thought the first half was a little frustrating. United tried to disrupt Chelsea's rhythm with a few fouls that weren't really being picked up on by the referee. But Chelsea rode out that period. And then obviously the penalty at the end of the first half. Definitely a penalty, Harry.
Yeah, it is a penalty. It's smart from Cuff, but it's a good touch to knock it inside. And she gives Bizet a decision make. Bizet's got to let her run into the penalty there and risk letting her shoot, or she's going to put her leg out, and that's exactly what Bizet did. Brought Cuthbert down, and yeah, it was a penalty. It was Bizet was never going to get that one right in that decision. In that moment, the decision has to be, I'm going to let her go and back one of my teammates to deal with it, because Bizet, the ball, once Cuthbert had knocked the ball past her, Bizet was never going to stop Cuthbert without bringing her down for a penalty. So a little bit of a clumsy decision, especially in a game of this magnitude, and it really it set Chelsea up, because I think that they had been building towards it. As you say, United, they started pretty bright. They tried to get on to Chelsea, and Chelsea did just have to be a little bit careful in those opening stages. But across that first half, Chelsea got better and better. They started to get the front players on the ball more. Ramirez, Beaver Jones all started to get involved, and I thought Beaver Jones was fantastic. And I think the penalty and the goal to end the first half was very rewarding for Chelsea, because they had been getting better and better as the half went on, and to finish the first half, perfect timing as well to get a goal just before the break. It was a crucial goal, and I think it was a deserved goal for Chelsea, because it had been coming for the last 10-15 minutes. It was, especially after those injuries, when Bizet and Turner both went off to get treatment, and both teams had a chance to talk to their managers. That was the 33rd minute, I think. After that, Chelsea really turned on the heat, and whatever Bompastor said to the side during that stoppage really helped them, and they pushed on, and they managed to get that goal before the end of the half, which was set themselves up very nicely to go again in the second half. It's always good timing to score at the end of the half. When you do it in an FA Cup final, it's even better.
Yeah, and a brace for Sonia Bompastor in this game. Just a word on how good her season's been, Harry.
Yeah, incredible. And I think, again, though, we've praised her how good she's been at left back this season, but playing on the left wing in this 3-4-3 formation is really exciting to see, because of the 3-back. It means that Chelsea can have control while giving that front 3 a bit more license and a bit more, character and a bit more freedom to go and play. And that's exactly what the likes of Baltimore and Beaver Jones did in this final, and I thought they were both brilliant. But Sandy Baltimore, incredible once again, just caused problems all the way through. 2 goals and an assist. one of the best performances we've seen at Wembley in a while, in a final. It was just incredible. United could not handle her. They could not keep up. Running down that left-hand side caused Man United all sorts of problems, which we knew was going to be a factor in this match. Just absolutely sublime.
Yeah, indeed. And obviously put that ball in, as you say, for the Macario goal, getting that assist. Cat Macario, important goal at Wembley. I thought the outpouring of emotion from her was really lovely to see. You know, a player who has struggled with injuries this season over the last few seasons. But I think we saw in this moment that joy and all that emotion spilling out. And it was a huge reaction in front of the Chelsea end. Yeah, incredible to see. I think a really lovely moment for her and obviously then for the fans as well. So, yeah, a really good performance from Chelsea in this game. Let's touch on United then, because Chelsea 61% possession to United's 39%. United one shot on target. Two shots on target all game. It should have been more, really.
Yeah, it should have been. United, as I said, I thought they started pretty bright, and there was that clear intent that we know Skinner likes to do when he plays against other top sides, is he likes United to get up and get in the opposition faces, maybe, make a few fouls, get a bit physical. That's what they want to do. They want to try and upset the opposition. They want to try and press them, put them under pressure, and either win the ball back or just, put a bit of doubt in their minds early on. And they tried to do that, and that has worked against sides. City, it worked perfectly. Arsenal, don't really know what happened in that game. That was a bit of a mess. That was a bit of an anomaly. But this game, Chelsea just didn't rise to it, and that was United's problem. United's game plan of being physical and getting onto Chelsea early doors, it worked initially, but after 10 minutes, once Chelsea got the ball down and just calmed down and settled into the game, they weren't phased at all by United, and they just moved the ball round them. And this is where my problem was with United, is there didn't seem to be a plan B. Not only once Chelsea started to get on top, but once United went 1-0 down in that second half, they just didn't. It didn't in that second half. It didn't feel like United were trailing in an FA Cup final. They went, right, we are losing in this final. We need to go score a goal. There didn't seem to be that. I don't want to say intent, because all the players out there intended to go and win the final, but there wasn't that kind of rise in intensity that you'd expect to see from a side that were losing a cup final.
Yeah, I think this is a game where you can rightfully criticise Mark Skinner. I think there was a lack of response in this game from Manchester United, and you can make your excuses, and the fact they didn't have Riviera, and that changed a lot of how they would set up, but I don't think there was enough response in this game. Don't get me wrong, I think some of the reaction, he should be instantly sacked. It's obviously very emotional and it doesn't not very rational. But I think you can rightfully criticise the fact they didn't seem to have another option in this game. I mean, any game where Chelsea 13 shots, United's 3, that's got to be better.
Yeah.
From Manchester United. So I think they were thoroughly outplayed here. And I thought the subs in the second half, one, showed perhaps a lack of a second plan, but also showed a lack of squad depth.
Yeah.
Because we saw, all sorts of strange substitutions. Millie Turner came off at half time. They put Dominic Janssen deeper. They brought Toon in, put Clinton deeper. I just didn't really get that. The defence has been so solid this season. What was the need to really change it up and actually change the system at all? Because in the first half, they weren't outplayed by Chelsea.
No.
The penalty came, and that was Chelsea's best chance of the first half. They didn't really have many chances. So I thought that adjustment to the system to go a little bit more offensive that early didn't make much sense to me, because I thought in the first half they kept a measure on Chelsea. In the second half that changed, and as soon as they brought more attacking players onto the field, they struggled to get to grips with Chelsea at all. Then obviously more changes came. Mannion came off, they put Bizet to right back, Mallard onto the right wing, and as they just kept making more offensive changes, Chelsea got more of a stranglehold on this game. George came off for Sandberg, and then obviously Miyazawa for Niall Soond and Bizet off as well, and Niall Soond ended up right back. It was lots of, and then Awujo then in for Miyazawa, but it was lots of changes that I just don't think were needed. I think, again, it was just panicking. 5 changes in this game, and they were all very on the fly, very early substitutions. They made 4 of them before the 70th minute. 3 of them, sorry, before the 80th minute. So I think they could have done. They panicked a lot here.
Yeah, I think the Turner one is an outlier for me. I feel that potentially was a forced one. We did see her go down in the first half, and I think Skinner would have been. I don't think he's. You have to be an idiot to take out that one of those United centre halves the way they've played this season. But I do agree. It brings more questions for Man United. So you're bringing on Niall Soond and Rachel Williams when you're training in an FA Cup final. That's not going to win you the game. No offense to those players, but that just isn't going to win you the game. Simple as that. And I thought Mallard's again could have that introduction. That should be a big moment when you're bringing on players like Mallard off the bench. That she is a game changer. You've got to use that. But as you say, I think Toon potentially came on too early, but it feels like that one was forced. But if you'd brought on Toon and Mallard, if they had been able to bring on Toon and Mallard as a double change on 60 minutes, that would have been a lot different to whatever we were watching. The Bizet change from Mannion, they were all just they were a little bit confusing, and it was a demonstration of Skinner not having the options he wants, but then not really making the right decisions with the options he has.
Well, none of the subs they use really fit the system as much as you'd want them to. I mean, obviously Sandberg for George is a like for like really, and Toon and Mallard are both useful players. But Mallard came on the fit, and then Toon obviously coming into attack midfield is fine. But I thought he was right to bench Ella Toon. I know a lot of people criticise that, but I don't think Toon changes the complexion of that first half. If anything, I think Chelsea would have found it easier to play out. I think Clinton's more combative, so I understand that decision. The Leah Galton situation was a bit of a weird one. She went down injured. A lot of reports that she continued playing on despite visibly crying, despite being in pain. I'm not sure what happened there.
This is what I didn't understand. So, thing is, Galton made that decision herself. Mallard was ready to come on. She took off her bib. She was in her kit. She was on the sideline. And then Galton, as you say, Galton looked visibly in a lot of pain, but decided to play on. That was a weird one because even if Galton's made that decision, surely as a coach, you've got Mallard there, so you're ready to bring her on.
It's the injury team. If the physio thinks she's okay to continue.
It was a bizarre decision because I don't think it's not like Mallard's a massive downgrade. And, clearly they were ready to make that sub. And then they went, oh, well, she'll be all right. And then Mallard put her bib on, went sat back down again. And I thought that, that did hamper United. I get that it's a cup final and players always want to try and play on, but I just brought her off.
I do wonder if there was a bit of that from Galton, wanting to play on, wanting to be involved. But I think at that point you've got to do what's best for the team. So that was a bit of a weird situation. But ultimately, I think what we saw in this game was a demonstration of the gap between the two sides. I think there is a distance this season. Chelsea have beaten United on all three occasions. I think we're seeing now. I mean, people have criticised United. People have criticised Skinner quite heavily, especially United fans. But I think there's got to be some slack cut when it's against a side who have not lost a single domestic game this season.
Yeah, they've still, for me, they've been the second best side in England, and I don't think that, and that's why I find it bizarre that people have getting so frustrated. I get when you lose a final, it is frustrating, but I think a lot of it is just that heat of the moment thing that people are just saying incredibly ridiculous comments. But when you finish runners up to a invincible side, when you lose a cup final to a side who have won an unbeaten domestic treble, I don't think you can criticise him too much. I think that and then yes, they lost 3-0, but two of those goals came in the last 5-6 minutes, and I think that for the majority of the game they're only losing 1-0 to a side that haven't lost a game in domestically all season. I don't think that was a bad result.
I think there was just a clear difference in the belief and the mentality of the two sides. I think it even not to be too ridiculous, but I do think it stems as well into that fan base. I mean, the performance from Chelsea was full of energy. The stands were full of energy. The United performance was a bit flat. The stands were a bit flat. I think that is a reflection of how it is on the pitch. And they are different fan bases. I think a lot of the United women's fan base is made up of people who are new to women's football, new to football as a whole. And so that's fine. That culture will become more as obviously as this sport evolves. I think with the Chelsea fan base it's different in that a lot of the Chelsea fan base is the men's fan base supporting the women's side at the moment. I think that maybe as Chelsea women become more of a force in Europe, which they will hope to do in the next few years, maybe that will evolve. But either way, I thought we saw a bit of a difference there, especially noticeable when they played a lot of the old songs before kickoff. But I think it was just one of those games where I don't think United were they could play this game 10 times. I think maybe United win it once. It's one of those where it's an incredibly difficult match to get anything out of with the way Chelsea have played this season. Chelsea have been on this stage 1,000 times. They know what they're doing at Wembley. They know what they're doing in finals. It's 4 out of the last 5 FA Cups now won for Chelsea. It is 6 in a row in the WSL. It's a run now of dominance that is it's frightening for a lot of other clubs. I imagine it's frightening. It's been an incredibly strong season, a treble winning campaign for Sonia Bompastor in her first season. Really impressive stuff.
Yeah, they've been brilliant, and I think that it's a mess. The big thing I find with Chelsea, and it's what Sonia says and what all the players says, is that it's that squad. It's not a team, and they mean that in terms of mental sense, in terms of that togetherness and that squad morale. But in terms of actually the quality, and when you take it literally, it is their squad. 91st, we talk about those subs. Chelsea's 91st minute, they were 3-0 up in an FA Cup final, and they brought on Guro Reiten, Carnery, and Shoka Nuskin. That is incredible squad depth. And that's what you mean. And when we're looking at United bringing on, so their certain players, and then Chelsea got those subs. Chelsea's squad is the reason why they've gone and won a treble, and that's the gap we're talking about.
Well, even so, both teams made a change up front. Chelsea brought on Kat Macario, and Manchester United brought on Rachel Williams. It's night and day difference at this stage. Don't get me wrong, Williams is a brilliant player in her day, but she's getting on now, and United have got to move on from players like her. They've got to make changes this summer. A lot of investment is needed. And people say, oh, United have had investment. Yes, they've built a very good first 11. But the problem is, as soon as injuries strike, we saw it with Riviere in this game. Yeah. That makes such a big difference having Aoife Mannion. Because Riviere is tenfold the player that Mannion is. So that's still a huge problem for United, is that investment. As for Chelsea looking forward then, 3-4-3 using this game, using the Liverpool game, do you think that is something one must all pursue going forward? Or do you think that was more of a change necessitated by the fact that they don't have much availability at the moment?
I think it's an interesting one. It really depends how Bompastor feels about the centre-half lineup, because what it feels like to me is that she's realised she's got 3 elite centre-halves and she wants to play them all. And I think that it's definitely something Chelsea can utilise. I think Germa has looked much better as in a 3 than she has in a 2. I know she hasn't played too much in it as a back 2, but I think that she's a bit more comfortable. I think with Bright starting to get to the end of her career, and we've seen that kind of pace decline, I think it gives a bit more security, because it means she's got cover from 2 centre-halves, not just 1. And I think that both Germa and Bjorn are very quick. So I think that what this 3-back does, it gets rid of the problems that we've seen for Chelsea defensively. It gets rid of them. Millie Bright getting caught out in behind. She's got cover from 2 centre-halves. I think that Bron's getting caught out of position. She's a wing-back now, so she can bomb on, and she's still got cover. And I think that it solves the problem of who do you bench, who do you start. So I think it does solve a lot of Chelsea's problems. They'll have Buchanan and Pomey as rotations, so they've got 5 centre-halves. Potentially they might want to bring in another one with the injury problems they've had, and when you do play a 3-back, 5 centre-halves can be risky. But they've got the quality to play there. It stops Bompastor having to make that horrible decision of, do you play Germa, Bright, Bjorn, or Buchanan? If you play 3, then you only have to bench 1. And I think when you've got that kind of elite class at centre half, it makes sense, and it gives them that control while still giving that front 3 some license to roam and license to play. Which I think when you've got the likes of Beaver Jones, who can play anywhere across the front 3, just letting it like she did yesterday in the game, just ran around everywhere. And she was all over the pitch and caused so many problems left, right and centre. And I think that there's a lot of potential there. Chelsea look to have really found potentially this is the way to play going forwards. And I think I can definitely see it working.
Not to completely disagree, but to disagree. I think this was more of a change necessitated by the fact Chelsea don't have any attacking midfielders. Yes, Vika Captain could have played there, but it's actually very similar to the same shape Chelsea have used all season, because in possession, the only slight difference is that it looks slightly different out of possession. But in possession, the 3 centre-halves, usually Bronze would invert and then the left back would bomb forwards. Sometimes the right back goes forward and Chelsea then overload in that way, which they wouldn't in this game. That's why there was more control. When the ball was turned over, Chelsea had a bit more of a solid rest of you would normally have anyway, that midfield pivot. Again, that's slightly changed with Walsh and adjustments like that, but still, you have that usual two. Then the wing backs overlap, and you create this 3-2-5 shape. Now that's the same as the usual system where the right winger would hold the width, and then the left back creates the width for Sonia Bompastor. So you get the same sort of shape of a 3-2-5. So yeah, I don't think there's too many differences. The only difference is out of possession. You've got an extra centre back who defend in a 5, which arguably makes you more solid. I think there will be a move away back towards a more 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1 type system. I think when you've got Lauren James to fit back into this side, you're going to have to find a way to do that. I think you'll see, obviously, Guro Wrighton come back into the side. I wouldn't be surprised if they looked at another right winger, or I don't really know what to say on Carnreid this season. She was excellent the first half of the campaign. But as always, when it gets down to that business end of the season, we've just seen her fade away. Evidently in this game, Chelsea preferring Beaver Jones, which makes sense. She was much more direct, much more prominent in that attack than Carnreid would have been. So I understand that. And yeah, I think we saw a very Chelsea doing the same principles in a slightly different shape. Shape isn't so important. The principles are the Bompastor. That's what I took from this game. I think Chelsea will look to do the same sort of stuff next season. I think having this three back shape or 5 back shape in their locker is useful, because in a game like Barcelona, when you do want another player in that back line, when you don't have the ball, I think this is the sort of system that can work really nicely. I think in this game, you're not going to get 3-0 wins against top sides. This is an outlier game. I think United completely fell apart in that last 5 minutes. They went for the game a bit, and Chelsea then obviously capitalised on the space left behind them. But yeah, I thought this was a really mature performance from Chelsea, as we've seen all season, really, getting the job done, getting the win, and yeah, claiming the treble. I think a very deserved achievement. I think it's a damning indictment on the state of the league right now, and the lack of investment perhaps from other teams, that Chelsea won all 3 trophies this season. I think, but even so, people put it solely down to investment, but Arsenal this season signed Mariona Caldente. They put in £1 million bid for Kira Walsh. It's not like the investment isn't there. So again, I don't think clubs like Arsenal and Man City, as much as they will go, oh, Chelsea spent £1 million, Chelsea spent 500,000 here. Those clubs have that money. Arsenal evidently want to spend that money. They just haven't been able to attract the players to go and play for them. I think Man City similarly, they added Caroline in the January transfer window, and as much as she came in for was it a free transfer, I want to say, in terms of budget cost, there was still a huge contract fee. So yeah, I think people will say Chelsea have invested a hell of a lot more, and they have. The investment is higher. Their agents' fees are more than double any other team in the league. Not going to shy away from that fact, but it's not a complete night and day in investment. These sides are investing the money, not quite as much Chelsea, but still are investing, and they're not really getting the results.
Yeah, it's one of those where if Arsenal and City can, especially for City, get settled managers who can compete and tactically can compete with Sonia Bompastor, and United get a bit more squad depth, then I do agree their gap is bridgeable. And I mean, not saying Chelsea wouldn't win any trophies next season, or they wouldn't win the league, but that gap is bridgeable to the point where other teams will pick up trophies. The fact Chelsea have dominated domestically should ignite something in those other teams to go out and prove a point next season and go out and be the ones to stop Chelsea doing it again. And I think that they will make a very good go of it.
The difference between Chelsea now and the Chelsea under Emma Hayes is it's gone from a Chelsea side who were ruthlessly solid in attack, incredibly good in attack, but Chelsea lost most of their games against the big sides last season. They lost and beat Arsenal over the 2 games. They lost and drew to Manchester City over 2 games. They lost to United in the FA Cup, beaten both times in the league. But we saw a Chelsea side that was fallible. The difference is now Chelsea have a tactician in Sonia Bompastor who can set the team up in different ways to handle different opponents. And we saw that in Arsenal, we saw that in Man City, we saw that in United games this season. So we've seen a very different Chelsea this year, where they can just dictate games, control games, and see out victories. And that's been a real, important part of Chelsea this season. The fact they have evolved in that manner. And I think, again, looking at the other teams in the league, United don't have the depth to be consistent in the league, and I don't think Arsenal and City have had the managers to then go and beat Chelsea.
Yeah, Sonia Bompastor and Chelsea are the only side in the league who have different options. Arsenal don't have a plan B. It doesn't feel like United.
Which makes sense because it's Slager's first
that is
season,
true.
so
United don't have one. That's something Skinner's got to work on. City don't have a manager, let alone a plan. They haven't got a plan A
What
yet.
is City's plan next season?
No idea.
Are they going to show up? We don't know. Because everyone seems to be leaving. They don't have a manager. Are they going to exist come September? We'll find out. Are they playing in the World Sevens tournament? So that's
spin
good.
all that off because they might win $2.5 million and then they'll go find a manager.
Then they get Geraldes. That's the prize. But
and that is something big to talk about for United. Just while we're on the FA Cup and United, if they do go and win $2.5 million, hopefully Jim Ratcliffe will give him £100 out. Give him, he's going. He'll be laughing. But that'll be big for United.
They might get new toilets.
They might, and a changing room. Don't
be mental.
Too ambitious.
Yeah, that's way too much. But domestic season done and dusted now. Big win for Chelsea in the FA Cup. Our attention now turns towards the most important tournament of the summer, the World Sevens football tournament. So join us from Wednesday for that. But of course, Champions League final this Saturday. Join us there as well. Should be a very exciting week of football.
Yeah.
We've got a brand new tournament, which I'm not even sure they know how it's going to play out, let alone us. So join us for that. That should be fun. And we're back on Saturday for the Champions League final. And then obviously straight into Euros coverage pretty much after that. A month between the Champions League final and the start of the Euros.
That is crazy. That is so short.
Very excited. That is everything, though, for today. I hope you have enjoyed our breakdown of the FA Cup. Less of a tactical one, more of a emotional one today. It was a very exciting final yesterday. I've still not got my voice back, really. But that's what football's all about, isn't it? Other than that, we'll be back on Wednesday to talk about that tournament, and then we're live for every single match, so that should be fun. Other than that, thank you guys very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.